Okay, folks are coming in, but I want to set this up real quick. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Just so it's 3 o'clock now, just so we are prepared. I wanted to let everyone know it's time for Asr. We may go a little longer, like really close to time for Maghrib. So you may want to go ahead and take like 5 minutes and pray Asr Salah now. So we're not rushing or you're not rushing to get out of the meeting. All right. Assalamu alaikum. I see a few more people have just joined us. I was just letting folks know we may be ending close to 5 p.m. So you may want to go ahead and make your Salah to Asr now. Take maybe 5 minutes to make Salah, and we'll go from there. We will get started at maybe 3:05. Folks have a little bit time. All righty. Oh. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome once again. We'll get started right at 3:05, inshallah. We'll give you folks a chance to go ahead and pray Salat to Asr, and then we'll get going. All righty. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to today's event. Bismillah. Oh, okay. Just a moment. I think this is someone's trying to get into. My apologies. Assalamu alaikum once again. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you guys have friends or folks who are trying to get into the meeting, I shared the link in the group text. Bismillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisan yafqahu qawli. We begin with the name of Allah and send His peace and blessings upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we pray for ease in the task ahead of us today. Thank you all so much for joining. We're glad to have you in this afternoon's Courageous Conversations series, focusing on Black teens and mental health. My name is Demi Fozia Adepo Adelaja, and I am the founder and executive director of the AFIA Project. The AFIA Project is a 501c3 nonprofit organization established to address health disparities experienced by Blacks and African American minorities in the DC metro area. We endeavor to make significant contributions to the health, educational advancement, and well-being of Muslim minority members of our community through community-based activities, events, and engagements. Although this afternoon's discussion will be centered around Black teens and mental health, I would like to take just a few minutes out of today's engagement to recognize our senior stars who are the primary audience for this three-part series. For those who do not know, the senior stars are our advanced level middle and high school students who have been part of the after school club program. This year's theme is financial literacy, and their active participation under the leadership of Brother Hamzat has not gone unnoticed. We would like to recognize our senior stars for their dedication to the program. And to do so, I'm handing off briefly to Brother Hamzat to say a few words about what they do in the after school club, and tell us a bit about some of the things we're planning to do with the students in the future. and also to help us celebrate our senior stars.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Salam Alaikum, everyone. Hope everybody's well. Happy New Year. I really want to kind of start off. My name is Brother Hamzat Saba. I have been the primary person teaching the Obvious Senior Stars course. I've had a great time working with the students. They've been great to work with as well. We're having a whole lot of fun. So far this year, we've kind of talked about, again, our focus has been financial literacy. We focused on budgeting and credit. Those have been our main focuses so far up until this point. When we come back from break, we hope to kind of continue our credit conversation and then kind of go into investing. And when we talk about investing, we're going to talk about 401k, stocks, bonds, and we hope to actually get into some actual real investing. We'll start off with paper trading stocks, meaning that we're not going to be using any real money for those people who aren't familiar with the term. And then we'll get into actual trading actual stocks and developing a strategy and kind of working with them to through that process. We also plan to work on some leadership skills, talk to the kids about leadership and what that looks like and how they can develop their leadership skills. We want to get into career choice and college choice as well. Specifically, just choosing the right major is going to be a big deal for us, making sure that we choose those majors that, for lack of a better term, we love, but we also can get some kind of financial reward or benefit from it as well. Make sure that we don't just choose careers for the sake of choosing careers. So we're going to talk about that and kind of try to guide them in the right path. So I want to congratulate all the kids who have been attending thus far. We've had a pretty consistent group of kids, and Abdul Farouk Kamaru, definitely congratulations. All these kids who are actually coming now, you guys will be receiving a $10 gift card from Amazon. So I definitely want to thank you guys, Muhammad Bryant, Naeem, Yusuf, Sulaiman, Umar, Jibola, Farouk Mustafa. Farouk Mustafa. I hope I didn't forget anybody's name there. All of you guys will be receiving a $10 gift card. So definitely congratulations on that. We did want to, however, try to award 2 extra kids for really all their efforts. And a lot of you guys have had tremendous effort. So it's kind of hard to choose these 2. The first one we wanted to give was for the most effort during fitness segment. And you guys have all gave tremendous effort during fitness. But Yusuf, you made the most improvement from our first fitness test to the most recent fitness test. You actually had the most improvement in terms of the number of reps in push-ups, number of reps in sit-ups, number of reps in squats, so on and so forth. So definitely wanted to congratulate you on that. And for most participatory, definitely want to give it to Umar. Umar, you've been on time every week, always answering questions, always completing your work. Really has not gone unnoticed. I really want to thank you and thank all the kids for that matter who have been here every week and participating. So I want to thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Brother Hamzat, and congratulations to our senior stars. Oh, really, I'm looking forward to celebrating them and seeing their final presentations when they get to that point. So for today, here's our agenda. The very next thing on the agenda is a brief overview of mental health, particularly what it looks like in the Black community and how it affects our teens. After that, I'll introduce our expert speaker, Sister Aziza, who will take it from there. So let's get right into it. Mental health is an important part of the overall health and well being, as we all know. Mental health is more than the absence of mental disorder. It is an integral part of health that includes our social and emotional well being, and it's intertwined with our physical health. Our mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence and through adulthood. And we certainly cannot discuss mental health without looking at addressing mental illness or mental disorders. These are the conditions that affect one's thinking, one's feelings, one's behaviors. Mental illnesses are outlined here, as outlined here, can be short lived. They can be situationally based on what someone is going through at the moment, or they can be lifelong. You may be surprised about how prevalent mental health illnesses are in the US. These 2 statistics actually surprised me the most, that 1 in 5 Americans will experience a mental illness in a year, in any given year. And also 1 in 5 children have experienced it. This means that chances are we all know someone who is experiencing a mental illness or even a child who is affected by it. So there is no single cause of mental illness. A number of factors can contribute to the risk for mental illness, such as early life experiences, medical conditions, biological factors, the use of alcohol and drugs, loneliness, living in isolation, and things like that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our expert speaker, Ms. Aziza Ashagbe. Sister Aziza is truly a gem to the community. Although currently based in Minnesota, she will always be a part of the DMV area. Assistant is a well-qualified family nurse practitioner. She earned her family nurse practitioner degree in mental health nursing from Bowie State University and psychiatric nurse practitioner degree from Washburn University. She will be facilitating this three-part series with us from the vantage point of a 14 years of experience in nursing. She has provided mental health and substance abuse services to various underserved communities, previously in the DMV area and also now in Minneapolis. Aziza's goal is to help improve knowledge about mental health and facilitate better mental health outcomes for Africans and Black communities. Please welcome Aziza Ashagbe. So I am going to stop sharing while she introduces herself a bit here. Go ahead, Sister Aziza.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Asisat Ashagbi. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner and also a family nurse practitioner, which means I get to work with everybody from kids to adults to just everybody you can imagine. My career in nursing started about 14 years ago. Throughout that time, I've had different experiences working with geriatric population. I work with hospice care, which is based, if you guys are young, so you may not know what that is. So it's about dealing with people that are dying and sick. Then lastly, in the past 4 or 5 years, almost 5 years, I actually moved to Minnesota to work with underserved population, which includes mostly people with mental health issues and substance abuse. So that's what I've spent the last over 4 years doing. So my interest in mental health began really about 4 years ago. So I went back to school to specialize in it because I would like to help, like Sister Fauzia said, my community, especially being Black, African, Muslim, immigrant, all the minority groups you can, and woman. So all the minority groups you can imagine. I figured this would be a great way to give back to the community and talk about mental health. And also being first, well, I'm not technically a first generation American. I came to the United States when I was 11. So as you can imagine, I can relate to teenagers because I went through a lot of stuff that you guys are probably dealing with now as a teenager myself, not very many years ago, but very many years ago. So I feel like I can help you guys with the questions. So when Sister Fazia came to me with this idea, I thought, this is great. This is great. This is a conversation that I wish that we got to have when I was you guys' age. So if you guys can do me a favor, can I have you guys turn off on your camera so I can get a look at my audience and see who I'm talking to? That would be nice to put a face to you guys. I don't know you like Brother Hamza knows you guys, so mute your cameras. I mean, the videos, please. Can I get to see you guys? Because I would like to make connection with my audience. I know some of the faces and some of them I don't know at all. Beautiful faces. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Oh, mashallah, look at them. Assalamu alaikum.
Nice.
All right. So should I go back to your slides, Sister Aziza?
Yes. So this is going to be a 3-part series. I don't see any parents here yet. Okay, so this is going to be a 3-part series. This first part is just to start the conversation with the kids and the parents, because this is very, very important topic that we are going to deal with. So I'm going to try to make it as fun as possible without boring you. I want you guys to do me a favor, participate as much as you're able to. You can comment in the chat. You can raise your hands. I don't care how you do it, but please participate so we can get through this and, learn a lot of stuff. Okay.
Is the chat able? Is it disabled right now, or is it?
Oh, hang on, I'll check on that. Thanks. Thanks for the reminder.
No worries.
Okay. So the objective for this 3-part series, guys, is to understand the importance of mental health. Sister Fazia defined what it is generally, but with this conversations, understanding it better is my goal. Also to help you start the conversations about mental health between you guys, your parents, your peers, and your community as a whole. Also understanding the barriers to mental health that we face in America and as Black and Muslims, and balancing religion and culture with mental health, because that tends to come up a lot on how to deal with that in my experience with kids. And then caring for your mental health, the things that you can do so that you can be your best self. And then also at the end of the series or throughout, also accessing and getting help for yourself, for your friends and community members is also the objective for this program. Okay. So when we talk about mental health, a lot of the words that I want you to guys to type in the boxes and tell me things that come up to your mind when you hear the word mental health. Let's have you throw out some words.
Okay, so I'm going to read off some of the things we have. Someone says isolation.
Any other word come to mind when you think about your mental health or hear the words mental health?
Depression.
Depression, that's a good one.
Trauma.
That's a good one. Going crazy, that's a good one. Anything else? So all those are correct. Some of those things are my friend. Okay, that's a good one, because anybody that's human does have a mental health. So no self-confidence. Okay. Any positive words that come to mind when it
Someone
comes
says
to
emotion.
emotion? That's a great one. We all have it. Okay. Peace. That's a great one. That's the goal of mental health, is to have peace. Okay. So relaxation, that's a good one. You need to do that. Okay, all great things, all great words. So throughout the series, we'll pick out some of this. We'll talk about it in depth. Happiness. So yes, I like that one, because when I think about mental health, I think about happiness. I think about the goal of talking about mental health and attaining mental health is in the pursuit of happiness, so that we can have peace and all this other things that are good. That's the goal. Okay. So the who of mental health. The who is every human being. Any person that has a pulse that was given birth to has mental health. So with positive, negative, it's all under mental health. So it's anybody you can think of, regardless of age, religion, sex, anything you can think of that quantifies a person, you have mental health. So what's the goal of mental health? Balancing the mind, the body, the spirit, the religious parts of us. Everything that makes us human being has to do with our mental health. So when are we going to talk about mental health? It's also always important to talk about mental health every time. So we are starting the conversation now, and we hope that we continue the conversation beyond this 3-part series and talk about it for the rest of our lives, because it's going to affect us for the rest of our lives. Okay. And why are we talking about it now? Why is it most important? This time more than ever, it's important to talk about your mental health, because the world has changed. How many of you guys are going to school online now? Everybody?
Yeah.
I don't see hands up. Everybody going to school online?
So
Yeah, that's something that is very, very new to most. I've never seen this happen, so it's new times. COVID-19 has changed our world. Everything's different. Somebody said isolation. We're more isolated than ever because we're not interacting with people as much as we're able to. Even though we're seeing them online, it's not the same as being with them in person. Politics, the political climate, if you we've never been here before with politics. I'm sure you guys know more than at your age than I ever did at my age about politics. So that's also a big deal that's affecting everybody's mental health currently. Racism, we're hearing more than ever. We're seeing images of racism, especially within the Black community. So that's actually affecting our mental health and just day-to-day living, even without COVID-19, even without the political climate, even without racism. Mental health is something that affects our day-to-day being, just as human beings, like I said earlier. And so how are we going to start fixing these problems or helping our mental health? We're going to do that by having this type of conversations that we're having, because we believe culturally and religiously most sometimes that it's something that we don't talk about, but we need to talk about it because, like I said, it affects everybody, and we need to be aware of the things that affect our mental health, how to take care of our mental health so that we can be good citizens and members of the community. Okay? Any questions so far from anybody? You guys are not participating?
something that was typed in, it was sent directly to me when you said, what do people think of when they hear mental health? It said identity crisis. I think that's
Identity.
actually also important to touch on.
Okay, identity crisis. That's a good one. I like that very, very much because it's something that I personally can relate to. And dealing with kids, I've worked in a lot of schools system with kids. I worked in alternative programs where kids come to, and they have that. Identity crisis is a huge, huge problem, especially when you're becoming a teenager, your high school years, even into your college years, and even into adulthood. A lot of adults still, fight with that. So that's a great one, and we can definitely talk about that more in depth. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear from some of the teens, like what do you guys think of in terms of identity crisis? I don't want to call out the person who said it, but if anyone else would like to share, what are your thoughts about when you say identity crisis for you as a teenager, what does it look like? Someone says being two-faced. Okay.
What do you mean by two-faced? Can you elaborate?
And others feel free to chime in too. You can also speak, unmute your mic and speak as well.
I think Muhammad Bryant has an identity crisis because he thinks Ghanaian jollof rice is better than Nigerian.
Oh my God.
He's lying. He's lying. Don't listen to him. He's lying.
Identity crisis.
Hey, that's a mild one. We can handle that one. Never. Okay, so when I hear two-faced, some of the things that come to my mind is just not knowing how to be. Is it like having to be a different person when you're home versus having to do a different person when you're in school with your friends? Or is it just like not knowing what to do? Or like when fighting with your friends?
Yeah,
What's
that's
two-faced?
exactly what the student just typed in. Sometimes balancing home and school stress can be hard for a lot of kids. So having that home identity, I'm Muslim, I'm this, and then school identity, I'm a student, I'm this kind of person to the rest of the world. Okay.
Yes. And that's part of the problems of mental health that we can talk about, especially for immigrant kids. And then Muslim on top of that, we do have identity crisis because the world has a different idea of how we're acting. And then when you go home, there's a certain different rules for you to act. But there's a role you play everywhere you go, whether it's school. It's not necessarily two-faced. I don't want you to think about it as two-faced, but understanding that you have different roles in different places, and you're able to balance those worlds and have an identity that's unique to you without sacrificing who you are. Is that something that sounds like you're okay? Yes.
She
Okay.
says
So
yeah.
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that more, and how to maybe in the next series we can I can focus more on that, and we'll talk about ideas, because what I want to get from you guys from this uh, first part is kind of what you need, and so that the next time we see, we'll be able to talk about it and be more, so you can have more privacy and I can talk about those issues, okay, for you. Any other thoughts when it comes to mental health?
Someone says, I think a big change in life can give you an identity crisis.
That's very, very true. Very, very true. Any major changes that your body, you go through, yes, any trauma, any move, anything can cause that. So you're absolutely right.
Right. If I can interject real quick, I would like to hear some from the parents, some of the things that you see your teenagers experiencing, or you think they're experiencing. What are some of the aspects of mental health and having a teenager that you would like to learn more about, talk more about, or get better sense about? So the ball is in your court, parents. Let us know.
So in coming up with this program, I actually asked a couple of my friends that are parents, and asking them what they think they need. So a lot of the people have touched about isolation issues, with dealing with a pandemic, with with helping their kids in a pandemic, socialization, ideas of how to get them to talk, the behaviors that they're noticing, with the teenagers being a little bit more moody. Somebody just typed that. That's a key characteristic of a lot of mental health stuff, is changes in behavior. That's one of the biggest sign that something is not going very well. As parents, you've been with the kids from birth, so their individual personalities. You know when things are changing between with them, even if they're not telling you. There are characteristics that you can pick out, that you would know that something's not right with my child, or I need to pay a little bit more attention. So change in routine, moodiness, just
Not being motivated.
low motivation, sleeping a lot, crying a lot, excessive anger. So stuff like that would definitely affect a child's mental health.
Assalamu alaikum.
Other
As a parent, I've realized, not only my children have been withdrawn, isolated, depressed. And earlier.
Sorry, you're going in and out, sister.
Can you hear me?
Okay, it's a little better. Go ahead.
Okay. I said, even just speaking with my girlfriend today, at her daughter's school in Maryland, there are 5 kids who are hospitalized for mental health issues. And so we really, need to have awareness and speak with our children, know what their habits are, know what their patterns are. And if we notice something different, definitely speak up to them, have them journal, have them write weekly what they're feeling, what they're going through, what they're seeing, because that's only what we're seeing. But what about what they hear at school? What is on the other line of Zoom? So I think that this is a great platform for parents and children.
Thank you. Thank you for that, sister. And it's true. A lot of kids are facing these problems, and this conversation that we're having is great because during my time, I wish it's something that we were able to have this kind of conversations. You're right. The kids are facing isolation more than ever. They're not able to interact and talk to their friends as they will freely in school. So they're keeping a lot of things to themselves. They're not able to share with their parents because they feel like they're going to be judged, they're going to be misunderstood, they're going to, get in trouble for having these feelings that are very normal and very human. So as parents, the job is to just facilitate an environment where they can have these conversations with you, where they can come to you if there's any problems rather than going to their friends, or seeking solutions for themselves that are not what you would want them to seek. A lot of while I worked with the kids and stuff like that, one of their biggest complaint is not having an outlet, not having an adult that they could go to if they had a problem. So my next question to them would be, do you trust anybody? Is there anybody that you trust that you can call if you're having a problem? So as parents, a point of things that you can do is just always leaving the door open to your kids. You can assign an adult to them that they trust, that they're able to have conversations with, maybe, and knowing that whatever they tell that adult will be kept. Confidentiality is a big concern for kids also. Living, telling them that, hey, anything you share with me, I promise not to share with anybody else. And if there's this, the only time I will share is if it's detrimental to you or in an emergency situation. That's the only time you are legally authorized to share those information if they're going to hurt themselves or they're going to hurt somebody else. Otherwise, it is important to keep their information confidential. Otherwise, they're not going to. If you if you bridge their trust, you are not going to get these kids to talk about anything to you.
Mhm.
So, kids, what are some of your concerns when it comes to when you're not feeling fine, when you're feeling like something is wrong? Do you feel like you have anybody to talk to?
You can unmute or type.
And we can talk about some of these things next week if you guys are not feeling the most comfortable because parents are in here. But the point that Sister Bass brought up was what I was making, because those are very, very valid points. You have kids who are, having problems with their peers and they end up in the emergency room because they want to um, do something to hurt themselves because they're sad and they don't have anybody to talk to about the problems. We see that a lot.
Um, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Uh, so say you're a homeschooler, yeah,
Mhm.
and you need to make friends, and you want to make the good halal friends. How should I do that?
Okay, great question. So, friendship is very important to mental health, and if you want to, looks like this kind of programs that you're a part of would be a good start, to try to make those type of friends. Maybe you can talk to your parents, and they can talk to other kids and see if they can set up a time for you guys to interact. That would be one way that I would think would be something you can do to make friends. Also, right now, you guys are doing Zoom online, maybe chatting with some of the classmates and seeing if you can communicate with them via email or other outlets.
Right. I'd like to share, because I've been
Yeah.
homeschooling my kids now for about 3 years. Some of the things that I do as a parent, when we were able to, we joined Boy Scouts. I have boys, and that was another way for them to meet other Muslim kids in the community. I hope to get back to that as well. Really, sometimes the parents has to take the big step, the first step in, meeting someone, another family, and saying, "Oh, this person's about the same age of my child. Perhaps they can, play together. When they're younger, you can do play dates. I mean, I know we have restrictions now with COVID-19. Don't get me wrong. I'm not asking anyone to go to someone's home, but that's kind of where it starts. For me, in this world, COVID-19 world, what that looks like for me now is maybe having a WhatsApp video call with their friends, allowing them to play video games, even though we do restrict that a lot. I've had to, and my son will probably attest it. I've had to kind of bend over and just kind of give him a little bit more time on the video game because that's time he's spending with his friends, but just not overdoing it either. So we've had to become very creative, and I would love to hear what other parents are doing to help maintain that kind of friendship because that's important to teenagers.
There you can go.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad's mom. He just asked the question. And I think one of the biggest challenge is exposing them to, as you say, halal friends, Muslim friends, but then you, as a parent,
Oh, sorry, sister, you just broke off. Sister Zainab? Yikes. I think she's driving. She probably just lost connection. So any other parents want to share some of their thoughts while we wait for her to get back on?
Welcome. This is Nefi's mom. So one thing that I've done, we're still involved in Girl Scouts. And so they have activities. We're involved in Afia Project. You all have great activities as well. And I've also scheduled Zooms, like they have play dates on Zoom with their friends. And I'm in a pod group where, we're comfortable with one family and they have play dates once a month.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. That
Right,
one.
you're on.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's still breaking up a bit, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm driving, so I'm trying to.
We figure. Go ahead, sister.
But, I was saying, one of the issues that I had with, him making friends, I mean, he does have some friends in terms of friendship goes, but there's some Muslim quote unquote friends that aren't necessarily into
The halal stuff.
halal. I guess I don't know other way to put it, in terms of, speech and behavior and some of the things that they're into. So the children, they see that. It's not even me as a parent that say, oh no, you can't be with so and so, but they see that and then they kind of move away from that particular Muslim child because of some of the things that they've experienced with the person. So as parents, we do try to reach out to Muslim families and have gatherings with Muslim families, but then the kids realize, some of the ethics that we teach them at home aren't being practiced, by all. So it becomes somewhat difficult for them to, garner, strong relationships with other Muslim children. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not saying that they're not out there, but it's just, having them find those Muslim children. I guess that's probably more the question versus not.
No, that definitely makes sense, Sister
And they
Zainab.
are like, my kids, they are involved in sports. They are involved in other activities, but majority of those activities aren't necessarily have Muslims. Even with Muslim teammates, they're still kind of like into other things. And some of them are just basically in public school, so they can't really relate to, they don't have that regular interactions that they have with their other public school friends. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. For instance, I have a daughter who has a Muslim teammate, but because they don't go to the same school, they don't have that regular interaction. So it's hard for them to even interact as friends per se, even though they're on the same soccer team. So that's the challenge for homeschoolers.
Yeah, that'll make it easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a very, very hard place to be, but it sounds like you've instilled a lot of personal like boundaries for the kids, and they know they're telling you what's going on, so that's good. But maybe also allowing the kids to interact with non-Muslims who are morally up. I don't know the word to use for that. Morally in line, in tune with what you want, because interaction is important. It's not limited to one, religious group or anything like that. Overall, mental health just has to, I mean, the preference would definitely be with Muslim kids for sure, because then that would uphold the values and stuff like that you put in place for the kid. But since this child already sounds like somebody that has a good idea of who they are, and they have a good idea of the values that you've instilled in them, then just, I think the idea would just be around socialization that's healthy for the child rather than just based on religion. To, isolation is one of the bigger things that we're worried about right now with COVID. So just having somebody that they can relate to, maybe just on other levels, like interest of soccer, educational interest backgrounds, just commonalities that help the child develop into who they are.
Yeah. I have to agree with that, Sister Aziza, because I didn't, it's not always in the forefront of my thinking, but you're right. Sometimes they do benefit from having quote unquote non-Muslim friends. I'm not saying they should become their best friends, but kids who come from homes where their morals really matches up with yours. I'm thinking now, my two youngest kids, they go bike riding all the time with the two kids in our neighborhood. And these are the most respectful kids ever. I mean, it's just a breath of fresh air to have kids like that who kind of like um, are being raised along the same lines as you're raising your Muslim kids. And you know what? That's another way of dawah, because when they will have that conversation. They've had those conversations with my kids where it's like, oh, are you Christian? Do you go to church? And they're like, no, we're Muslims. And, they tell them about Islam. So I now, in the past few weeks that they've been hanging out with them, of course, with the mask on and everything when they go bike riding, it's really making me more open to this idea, because my kids come back and tell me what the interaction was like and what they talked about. And us as parents, if you raised your child with the Islamic foundation and it's strong, mashallah, know that they would be able to, inshallah, carry themselves well in public, and be able to interact with non-Muslims. And in fact, maybe the reason, the way others find their Islam, or a better understanding at the very least of Islam, because that then folks realize, oh, all Muslims are not XYZ that we've always thought they were. So
So,
there's
I mean, so I would definitely agree with that. Like, two of my kids, their best friends are non-Muslims, right? And these are like their best friend. One, they had, one was going to public school and they met in kindergarten and they've been best friends ever since. And then the other, he met them at a playground, and they've been best friends ever since. But it's just, I have a total of 6 kids. So like the other 4 are still kind of dangling, trying to find their, best friends. So yeah, I'm definitely open to, regardless of, what your religion is, we don't restrict them religious wise in terms of friends, but it's just finding those that have the same ethics and values sometimes could be challenging. And I find that actually in our school arena, there are more students there with the moral values that are more aligned with Islam and not. But it's just having that regular interaction that makes it difficult to really garner like a real relationship if you're not seeing them on a regular basis.
On a regular basis, yes. That's a big challenge for sure. But like we said, there is a lot of platforms now. Like my friends are using like educational platforms to, have their kids interact with other kids. And a lot of people have said Zoom dates, bike park dates. I mean, it's cold outside right now, so maybe that's not happening as much. But just anything that would help the kid. When they're able to interact with people their age, they're able to just have more it's just better for the child overall. It's good to hang out with adults and hear them out and stuff like that, but you cannot relate to a 13 or a 15-year-old. I mean, I can't. I mean, I try, but you can't. And they just won't feel comfortable to even talk to you or have the interaction that they need to have at this age.
Right.
So any other questions for now, or we could move on?
Okay. I think I have one. Another
Okay.
one. So, so what are some of these platforms of which I can find these friends that you have like said? So
Mention.
there's like lining up like with man. So what are these platforms that you said that we can make friends on, or I can make friends
Okay.
on? I'm like 15 years old, so that's
Oh.
also gonna be hard. So yeah.
Okay, we'll try to help you look into that. We'll try to help you see if you can connect with some of the kids from this project, and hopefully maybe talk more about to your, or maybe next time talk more about your personal interest, and maybe looking for groups that are interested in the same thing that you're interested in beyond religion, beyond Islam, of course,
Yeah.
would be the basis, as if we can, as much as possible. But then maybe other things that you have personal interest in, and then we can look for groups online that have those things in common, and then we can go from there. It's just about finding resources. I'm not sure any at the top of my head right now, but that's something I'd be more than happy to help you look into. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
So we can go to the next slide. Okay. So wanted to talk about some of the common mental health issues with the Black communities, especially for teenagers. At a certain point, I think around teenage years, when you go to the doctor, the parents are maybe aware of this. They sometimes ask you to step out because they want to talk to the kid one-on-one, and just to get an idea of how they're doing in school, how their mental health is going overall. This sometimes makes the parents uncomfortable, but this is very important for the kid, like we said, because there's a lot of things that they will discuss with their peers, they will discuss with other people, and they won't discuss with you as parents. So knowing that this is happening, you guys maybe can cater the conversations with the kids and asking them more about their day-to-day life, asking them about their school lives, asking them what's going on, because a lot of the idea behind this is kind of catching problems before they escalate into bigger things, which is what mental health is really about: preventing things from happening, from getting worse. We ask a series of questions about their mental health: what's going on with school, what's going on at home, is anybody doing anything to you that you don't like, is there anything that you have issues with other kids. And so this allows the kids to just be open and talk about their mental health. So one of the bigger things that we face for a lot of teenagers is depression. You start to, somebody mentioned earlier about the kids being moody, changing behaviors and stuff like that. So depression is one of the most commonly treated mental health issues in teenagers. When we do our assessment of the kids, we're pretty much asking about a period of 2 weeks, because 2 weeks is enough to tell you a lot of information that you need to know. So you ask them about how their mood is, how they're eating, how they're sleeping, how they're taking care of themselves, how they're doing in school. All this factors into coming up with a diagnosis for depression and other mental health issues. Okay. So some of the common ones are depression, which is like a change in mood and behavior in 2 weeks. You talked about anxiety. Anxiety is another one that we see a lot. Anxiety usually just means like you're worrying a lot all the time about different things. You can't stop worrying. Then you get into your psychotic disorders, which has to do more with genetics than anything, because sometimes mental health issues is just not you're having a problem. Sometimes it's genetic. Sometimes it's things that you're born with that affects your brain that you don't even know what's going on. So some of that is seeing or hearing things are not there. So hallucinations, delusions. We see a lot of adjustment disorders, like somebody said earlier, just, changing school, moving from a different place, having something happen to you that can change your behavior, like somebody said. Also, we get into the traumas. Somebody mentioned that earlier. Trauma is anything that happened to you unexpectedly. So maybe like a hurricane disaster, COVID-19, the Black Lives Matter, seeing people killed, and all the violence that we're seeing at an all-time high. So all those things are also things that actually affect mental health. Suicide is a big thing for teenagers, especially Black teenagers now. It's the second leading cause of death. It's gone up a lot in the past couple of years. Black teens, we used to be at the bottom, but now we're climbing up, and they're seeing the numbers go up more and more and more because we are not talking about mental health as much as we should within our communities. Another big thing which I worked with a lot was substance use disorders. You're seeing teenagers get into drugs and alcohol more sooner than ever, even Muslim teenagers. So it doesn't get away from the fact that we're Muslims doesn't mean these things are not happening. Um, it's it's alarming, actually, the rate of which Muslim teenagers are doing drugs and alcohol, and all those also are having an effect on the mental health issues and making it worse. Okay. Any questions or anything about any of those things I talked about? I know it's a lot. I'm trying not to bombard you guys with information.
I have two questions.
Okay.
First, is that do you get like Muslim patients that you work with?
Yes, I do get them all the time. Actually, I was surprised because as a Muslim child myself, I thought that that's something that we don't do. I thought naively that that's something that didn't affect our community as much. If you asked me, I would have been like, oh no, we know better. But turns out the world has changed a lot, and Muslim kids are not out of the equation when you talk about these things. They have just as much access as anybody else does. There's, their friends who know about these things and teach them. Like the mom was saying earlier, just because they're Muslims doesn't mean that their behavior reflects that. So these kids also have the availability to, yes, I do see a lot. I was
Okay.
actually surprised about how much I see.
All right. Now the second one is like with the Muslim patients, do you go like the Islamic route, like tell them du'as, or go like the professional route, or do you do a mix of both, like tell them du'as and do like the professional route of what to do?
So I try to do cater to what the kid needs. So whenever you're dealing with somebody with a problem, you need to figure out the person and figure out what they need. Sometimes you can, like you said, you can go the Islamic route, and sometimes you can go the professional route or just a humanistic route. So when people are usually having a problem, you don't necessarily want to just throw religion at the top of their head at that time. Because they do know that what I'm doing is not right for the most part. So you want to get to the bottom of why they're having the issues, which is usually not anything to do with religion. It has to do more with their emotions. It has to do with them trying to solve a problem that they have at that time. So you can do both. And then in the settings that they are, there's sometimes not much you can do with religion at that time per se, but you can tell them and offer them um, resources for religious resources. So sometimes it's as little as I've helped them figure out the direction of the Qibla, to pray while they're there. We've talked about, what Islam says about substances. So it just depends on what the person needs.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Sister Aziza, because I think when we talk about mental health, and for us as Muslims, people can be on the two extremes. Some that wants nothing to do with the religion and just just get me better and all this stuff, and others who are like, oh no, it's just all you need is Quran, all you need is dua. And honestly, the way I see it is Allah has given us the knowledge. We have some excellent people in the field of psychiatry and psychology who are Muslims. Allah has blessed them with all this knowledge for a reason. They're not there, their knowledge is not there for naught. Okay. We should be able to address these things that the human being as a whole. And part of you is your religion. We definitely have to have Islam as the forefront of whatever it is we're doing. But we also have the understanding that we go outside into the world where we're affected by different things. Someone who, for example, is an alcoholic, I don't think is necessarily the right time and has ended up in like a rehab. Just throwing dua, throwing it at them like, go make dua, go read Quran, is probably not the best thing for you to do for them at that point. You really need to focus on trying to get them better, get them to get off the substance, along with, reminding them about our what's haram and halal, what you should be doing as a Muslim and things like that. But I feel like what I see anyway in our communities, Black, I want to say typically immigrant communities who are Muslims is, oh, you're Muslim, you shouldn't be doing this, and haram, haram, haram. Well, the kids are kind of tired of people, I should say, are kind of tired of hearing just haram, 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 where you're not giving me a way out. How do I get better without you judging me overtly based on Islam and basically saying you're going to hell because you've done XYZ, if that makes sense.
And you do have an identity outside of Islam, outside of religion. A religion is just it's a layer of who you are. I was saying you're Black, Muslim, immigrant, female, all that has an effect on your mental health. It has an effect on the things that you're dealing with, as far as in when they I was reading an article about Muslims and in psychiatric times about Muslims and overall mental health of Muslims. And they did a survey, and 85% of Muslims actually say that their faith is their source of happiness. So we know religion, we know what we're supposed to do with the context of religion, but outside of that, we still have these issues that are mental, that are just part of being human, that religion sometimes cannot solve immediately, because even the fact that you're Muslim creates problems for you. 50% of Muslims in America go through some kind of psychological bullying just for the fact that they're Muslims. 21% go through cyberbullying, 10% physical bullying, and then Muslim kids who wear a hijab, also 17% bullying. That's what the results showed. So in itself, being a Muslim can also create problem for you. And then that's affecting your mental health. So you need to deal with that too on its own. So there's so many layers that religion just can't solve all the problems that we're seeing. It's nice and it's a good foundation for you. Definitely, you got to pray, you got to know all the, du'as, make all the du'as and everything, but it doesn't negate you from being human and still dealing with everyday problems like being sad, being happy. Those are just emotions that come to everybody, and we need to deal with those.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Zainab again. I was going to add to what you're saying that sometimes, yeah, there's that side, but then sometimes there's a physiological mental illness, right? That may require medication, medical intervention. So that's something to consider too. I mean, definitely dua helps, but then Allah gave us, different plants and different medicinal things to help us with those things that hurt us physically and physiologically. So mental health is an illness for some
Yes.
people. It's not something that, oh yeah, I had this experience and it's coming on. It's, some people are born with it. Some people have
Yes.
genetic predisposition to mental illness. So we definitely do need other interventions in addition to DUI.
Exactly. Like schizophrenia is one of those things that's like family, genetics usually is a big thing. And it's not even diagnosed till later in life, but the behavior start as from young. So you start exhibiting this behavior and nobody understands what it's coming from. You can't do it away. You got to take care of it with medicine. You got to take care of it with therapy. You got to do all the things that you need to do to help the child. And sometimes children also deal with parents who have mental issues that they have to deal with. So it's a symbiotic relationship that, like I said, because mental health affects just everybody.
I have another question.
I
I
like
hope this
it.
is not too much for you, but
No, not at all. Thank you.
whatnot. Okay, so for like substance disorder and like rehab and stuff, how does that exactly work? Like, what is the process?
Okay, so interesting question. It just depends on, noticing the behavior when you catch it, and then just it just depends. Sometimes it's court ordered. Sometimes the parents see a problem, they notice a problem, and they get the child help before it gets escalates into other things. So it just depends on the individual and what they need usually. Did I answer your question? I didn't want to go too deep into it.
Not really. I just wanted to
Okay.
like know the process, like rehab. Like, say someone's like an alcohol abuse user. Like, what's that? What's the process? Like, I never really looked into that or anything.
Oh, okay. So they do an intake. They assess the person for whatever, how much they're using, and then they see the level of care that they need. Sometimes you just need to go to meetings because it's not that bad, and sometimes you need to get into a program where you're going in and out daily to get help, that you need to listen to classes on how to cope without using those substances. And sometimes some people are so far deep that they need to stay in a residential place where they're getting 24-hour programming to kind of help them, help the brain reset itself and get them back to life without it.
Okay. I have another question.
Give her background info.
All right. So I'm in this program where like we make a business and we sell like products and make profit and real money. And we have this product that is supposed to like help distress like student or like kids. But it's like a stuffed animal that like it's like a bracelet that slaps onto your bracelet and that helps or like tries and helps like kids comfort their stress. So anxiety.
Mhm.
So I would just like your opinion on like stuffed animals and how you use them or how you know of people that use them to help cope with that. And if you could like help me like kind of like get like contacts for them so that it could help our business grow into like a business, then that would also help too. So yeah.
I like you already. I
I
like how
love
your
it. I
brain
love it. I
works.
love it.
I like it. I want to buy one.
Go ahead and
I like
share your
that.
website because they do have a website. Go ahead and share the website in the chat, Yusuf. Oh, Muhammad.
That's great. Okay, so I like your product. It's a very good product. It sounds like something that we all could use. So I actually have a teddy bear. I'm 30 something years old, and I actually have a teddy bear, a big old one on my bed, because when I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling lonely, I hug it, just because it does give you comfort. so that's a great, like I said, like it's a great product. I think it's great. I think that, you know, somebody mentioned isolation and loneliness and stuff like that. Things like that have actually been shown to help comfort people. It's shown to improve mood because you feel like you have something that's dear to you. It's comforting. A lot of children have blankets. They have, you know, little things that they hold in time of stress to kind of help them cope. So I think it's a great product, and I think that, yeah, let's market it.
And like if you know like anybody like or like any like therapy like organizations that would like buy them in bulk or like something like that, then like please contact me or something.
I will keep you in mind. I don't know any at the top of my head, but
Okay.
I'll be your customer. I'll buy one from
All
you.
right.
All right.
We got one.
Assalamu alaikum. I have
Yeah.
a question.
Alaikum salam. Go ahead.
So, I just want, this is a Muslim community, and I just wanted to point a little bit on our daughters, especially the teenagers. They're in middle school or high school, and they are wearing hijab. Of course, it's enough that they're blacks, they're children of immigrants, and on top of that, with this society, we find ourselves, the temperature we find ourselves right now with racism and all this Islamophobic going on around, that it's a lot of pressure on them going in the school hallways in the hijab, and they're being picked on, and they're going to the bathrooms to cry, and sometimes they don't even feel comfortable telling their parents because they go, "Oh, please just deal with it." That's mostly how Nigerian parents deal with it sometimes, which is really bad, and we don't want to do that. Of course, we're all getting to know that now, and coming up to speed. How do we deal with this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us to wear hijab. At the same time, they have so much pressure. It's causing them anxiety, depression, and sometimes trauma of trying to deal with this pressure. And so can you just tell them on this platform how to balance the society and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do? I personally, as a mom, I didn't deal with this, to be honest with you, when I was growing up. I started wearing hijab when I was out of college. I started working. So I really can't even help my daughter in this situation right now, to be honest with you, because I didn't deal with this pressure. So I would like you guys to help us touch base on that, because we don't want them to be wearing hijab and then they're depressed and they are being bullied at school every day. They're scared of going to school. They prefer being home. They prefer the pandemic situation doing virtual school right now, some of them, to be honest, which is sad, So I wanted to touch base on that for us, please.
I want to
Assalamu
go
alaikum.
back and forth real quick, and then before Sister Aziza responds, and I have to say I'm kind of similar to you as well, Sister Rashida. I mean, sorry, yeah, it is Sister
Salimat.
Salimat. Sorry, in that for first I don't have girls, so I'm not necessarily what I'm going to be giving in terms of advice will be more hypothetical things that I think might work or things that I've offered up, and some of my friends who have daughters have said, might work. I also didn't start wearing hijab until grad school, like full hijab. So I didn't go through that process. But I think the mistake that some of us make as parents is we see that the girl has reached puberty and we just slap hijab on their head and says, okay, now you have to wear hijab. With anything in life, you cannot just give an abrupt, life-changing command to a child and not expect them to react to it. Some of the things that I think has worked for my friends, some of them they start their kids in hijab much younger. So it's kind of like part of what they are, part of who they are. It's part of their personality, their identity, where you would not, so some people, might smear at little kids wearing hijab at such a young age. Well, guess what? Those kids will probably have a less harder time putting hijab on as adults because it's part of who they are. You can't question why they're wearing hijab because they would have the right answers for it. Like, this is who I am. If you don't like it, so what? So they already built that kind of resilience from a young age, as opposed to when they're going to middle school or high school and you're like, wear hijab now. First of all, they're looking at you like, why? Or how? Or and you don't prepare them. Some kids have had, especially once again, if they've had it for such a long time, they've had a chance to really make the hijab theirs. They've had ways to like figure out the fashion around it. Okay, I want to wear it this way, I want to wear it that way. I can get creative with the, like, of course, in the keeping the Islamic Islam in perspective, and how to do it appropriately. But I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we as parents make, is we throw this huge decision, this huge thing at our daughters at that age, and we expect them to just take it. Of course they're going to rebel. I'm just putting that out there, Jenna. And that goes with so many other things as well, for our kids. If you have kids who are used to wearing like super tight jeans and tops and everything, dressing any kind of way, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, starting from tomorrow, you're going to start wearing XYZ, they're going to rebel. It's just normal, for any kind of person. So just wanted to put that out there. So go ahead, Sister Aziza.
Oh, so great. I was gonna have you talk before I did anyway, to kind of give an idea, because I can imagine that it's a difficult conversation and it's a difficult topic, because peer pressure and bullying is a all-time thing. It's nothing new, and I can't imagine somebody wearing a hijab at that young age. I personally don't wear a hijab, so I can imagine. But one of the things that I was taking notes as Sister Fazia was talking, I was dealing with the new climate that we're in. There's so much during this time. These kids have social media. They have all kinds of platforms that they get to see um, all sorts of things. So I think introducing people that look like them, that wear a hijab, would be a good way to help these kids out. Maybe there's influencers on Instagram, maybe that you can have them follow those kind of people. People need to see people that are doing the same things that they are, to feel comfortable. Affirmations, I was thinking about that, like telling the girls why they are wearing a hijab, and telling them that they're beautiful with the hijab, even though it's religious, something they're doing for religious reasons. But affirming them beyond that. Hey, you still look good, you're beautiful. Communicating with them, how is it making you feel? What do you feel like wearing a hijab? Communication is something that I feel like is very important. Like she said, just don't throw the hijab on them. Tell them why they're doing it. Ask them how they feel about it. Give them choices of how to wear, how much to wear. I mean, not saying don't cover it all, but like, do you want to start with a turban? Do you want to, ease into your comfort level? But make a deal with them on how, like, the hows of wearing it. If am I making sense? Does that make sense to who asked the question?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are absolutely.
Yeah.
And my daughter is online too, so we're both listening. And obviously, I mean, we shouldn't disobeying our last command is not a solution.
It's not negotiable to the solution, no. But you need to inform their decision. You need to make them a part of the process, which starts from educating. When somebody says, "Do this," you want to know why you're doing it, so that when somebody questions you as to why you're doing, the comfort level says, I'm not just doing because I have to and I'm Muslim, but why? What is the reason behind the job? What is it supposed to do for you? Is it supposed to modesty? What's the, you got to give them, so that if somebody comes up to them and is bullying them, they can have the confidence to stand up to their bully. Because if you don't know, if somebody tells you to do something and then you do it, and somebody comes to you and says, oh, why are you doing that? Especially as teenagers, Another teenager would be like, well, I'm doing it because, and then the confidence, building the confidence of hey, I'm wearing a hijab for Allah, and then I'm also wearing it because why not? I'm beautiful with it.
Okay.
On.
So I think where we are at, she's been wearing it for a while, but I think where we are at is somebody pulling a hijab in the hallway, and you know, for a girl, sometimes they might not be able to stand up for themselves, and I think that's where we need to work on, is being confident.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Can I add something
Sure.
as well? I think it's important for her to have that support. And I think it goes back to the question that my son had asked about friendship, right? It's for her, if she has friends in the school that can support her in her hijab wearing.
You're breaking up, Sister Zainab. Uh-oh, we lost her audio.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been having issues with my Zoom. I'm not sure exactly. But I think that her strongest ally would be her peers and her friends that can really help her, because if anybody else steps to her, her friends can, back her up. And if they see that she has those friends that support, they'll probably think once or twice or even 3 times before they kind of step to her. So what she needs to do is generate an advocacy group within her school, right? If she belongs to some club, she should start talking to her friends, start talking to her peers that she trusts about the experience that she's had and how it's made her feel. And I think from that perspective, then those friends will kind of look out for her too. I think, I think that would be helpful, because one of my questions was how old she was, but I see now that she's probably high school or middle school age. So it's kind of too late to kind of give the advice where she should start wearing it early. Or I have 3 daughters. 2 of them, they started very early, like elementary school, wearing hijab. And if they were to take it off, if they forgot to put it on, they feel like they're naked. I mean, I had a daughter tell me in elementary school, like, Mom, go back home and get my hijab and put it on. She was not going to step into that school without her hijab. And I had a daughter who I've waited till maybe like 10 years old before she started. And it was a little bit difficult for her to wear the hijab. But once she started wearing it, she couldn't imagine not, walking out the house or being seen without the hijab. But at this age, if she started like middle school, high school age, it's a little bit more difficult. And it's something that she herself is getting used to. So she really needs that support. And it's also like, we talked about earlier, a form of dawah for her, to talk to her friends and explain to her that, this is why. And another thing you could do as a mother, you could go to the school, right, on regular basis, or interact with, because one of the things that I did for my daughters in high school is go talk to her students. They need to see me, because they don't have examples of Muslims with hijabs on. So I would go and do different activities with the kids at school. I would go and volunteer. I would go out there after school clubs and do different things with them, so that they see me and they hear me and they see that we're just like them, right? Her mother who wears hijab is just like their mother at home. It's just a different perspective. So that's something that I think a mother can do to also help foster an understanding for, women in Islam who wear hijab.
Yeah, wow. Mashallah, that's great, Sister Zainab. Thank you so much. I also want to add one more thing, that you should be your child's biggest advocate. So the example that Sister Salimat gave about maybe the hijab being pulled from a Muslima's head in the hallway, you should be the one at the forefront, like going to the school and questioning people and making sure you're talking to the administration to make sure that this does not happen, it doesn't continue. Because when your child says that you're fighting for them and you're there for them, and they can always, anything happens to them, my parent is going to be there for me. It's another layer confidence, if I may, that they have, like my parents have my back. If anything, even if anyone wants to do something to me, even if this is a shy child, at least, at the very least, they know that someone picking on them is not going to go unpunished, hopefully, depending on the school district, I guess. But if you raise enough, if you raise enough eyebrows whenever stuff like this happens, and you really make sure that it's addressed, I feel like you can help mitigate some of those things from happening. Granted, again, bullying is unfortunately become so rampant in our society now, in schools and outside of school, but we still have a role to play. We can always be that support that our kids need, when they're being faced with all this other things that they're faced with, in school.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
MashaAllah.
Alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Go ahead.
Yeah, please. I just want to add little to what has been said about the hijab. Like I have series of issue with my kids. They are girls. I have three girls. I have one that's in the school. The hijab was pulled, and like before she turned around, she couldn't find who exactly pulled that hijab. So she has to go to the office, and I was called. I had to go to the school. They figured out the exact person that pulled the hijab from the camera. And after that, because that person was reported, and the other kids, like the friends of that exact person, my daughter was a target just because of that. And after that, such repeats itself, like trying to throw stuff on her while she is in school. I had to go to that school and tell them, if that incident repeats itself, I'm going to take it to the district level, because I was like, does it mean somebody that use hijab cannot come to a public school? Because I don't understand. So, but sometimes the kids with those kind of things that happen, even though they have your back, it goes a long way to affect their mental thinking. Because most of the time, my kids will like, I don't want to go to that school.
Mm.
And sometimes she will just be in school, and the teacher will just find out that she was just crying. What exactly is the problem? She will not explain to anybody. I will have to go down there, but she'll just keep quiet, and we don't understand what exactly is going on. Similar case with the one that was in elementary school. When that happened, she said she's not good. For about 2 days, she refused to go to school. I had to let the school know what happened and to find out who exactly. Now, even with all this, that I'm trying to give them that confidence, like I have their back when such happen. There is one of them that's like, if such will happen, she will not take that nonsense from them. But to my biggest surprise, maybe because of what has been happening, that was the one that even when it happens in school, she will just be quiet, and she never said anything about it. And these kids, while they were in school, most especially the high school, they have a lot of peer pressure. And that goes a long way to the extent that they might just take that hijab from home. We see them dressed with hijab at home, and when they get to school, they take it off. And
And
that has
somebody meant,
really
go ahead.
And that has really been the biggest kind of things that I was like, I don't understand what exactly is going on in, I would say maybe the district where the school is located or something like that. But sometimes you just want to be careful, not like every time when things happen, because sometimes when things happen again, I tell her, just let me know who the teacher is. I'm like, oh, mommy, I don't want you to come, because it's like now, every time when things happen, maybe m- m- from it might be from their friends, like every time when stuff happen, your mom will always come to school or something like that. So I don't know if there is a group or a platform where they can see people like them, they can build that confidence, even and these are kids that have been using hijab from very early stage.
Yeah.
So now going to a public school is a whole mess, like there's a lot of circumstances.
Yeah. So if I can interject, someone typed in find a safe space. It's like safe spaces are important. If after advocating the environment is still not safe or respectful, please consider moving her to a different school or environment. And that's important. I think you may unfortunately get to your breaking point. Definitely, you addressing it. I think as a parent, that's the same thing I would do. I would also leave a paper trail and make sure everything is documented. So in case it reaches to the highest of authorities. But unfortunately, you may have to do that, right, Sister Aziza, where you may have to move the child
I
for their own
completely
mental well-being.
I completely agree. I was gonna say just
But
exactly what you said. I saw that the advocating and moving the child. At this point, it may be what you have to do because you have to consider the child's safety. You have to consider the child's emotional being. It sounds like you're doing all you can as a parent, which is great. But sometimes you do have to remove them from the environment because safety and the psychological damage on the child continues. You come in sometimes can even make it worse because the kids, that's just the way kids are set up. They might start bullying her more, which is why you said usually she's the outspoken one. But in this circumstances, because she feels helpless, now she's resorting to being quiet and then she starts to internalize things. It can start showing up in her behavior, start causing her to be depressed, anxious, and it can just spiral down to, you know, something worse because these kids are really, really I'll never forget. One of my first patients was a 18-year-old who came to the emergency department. Her mom did not know, but she swallowed a whole bottle of Tylenol because kids were making fun of her and she wasn't telling anybody. And she was just like, why did you do that? I just wanted to end it all because they hate me. So sometimes you just have to remove the child
Yeah.
at this point.
I'm sorry to call you up, Brother Hamzat. I know you work in the school system. I mean, how would you advise parents to deal with this kind of issue?
Yeah, so Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So there's no right or wrong answer here, right? What I will tell people is growing up in schools here, I was picked on as a kid. People will get picked on, right? That's what kids do to a certain extent. A big part of the issue at times, which I tell parents, is causing your kids to be ostracized by not allowing them to be a part of any activities, not allowing them to be a part of the school community. So when you do this, they're naturally going to be looked at as somebody on the periphery, and automatically it's easier to pick on somebody or bully somebody that doesn't have as many friends or isn't part of what we have going on. So allow your kid to be part of clubs, sports, all different kind of activities. Very important because not only that's how they build their circle of friends, that's how they build their allies in the school, for lack of a better word. But it's very important. But there is no perfect answer, right? I played sports all throughout high school, all throughout middle school. No one ever had the audacity or goal to bully me. My brother, however, was bullied frequently, right? If I didn't have to, I would constantly have to step up and at times I've gotten into fights because of my brother and stuff like that. But he wasn't involved in activities, and that could have been part of it. You never know. And I've had other kids that I've taught myself who were involved in activities and still, for whatever reason, was bullied. There was a young lady who tried to commit suicide because a lot of her friends, well, her supposed friends, ganged up on her later on because of backbiting and gossip and all kind of different things. So there's no right or wrong answer. You just want to do your best to give your kid confidence, number one, in who they are and what they do. I think that's the most important thing, just knowing who they are, and allowing them to grow in that space, and then also then allowing them to be part of the community that's around them. Those are the two things you can really do.
Thank you for that. Wow.
And in this environment and climate, it's actually pretty bad, only because Islamophobia is a thing in America. The media doesn't support, But again, definitely, like everybody has mentioned, exposing the child to people in people that look like them, people that believe the same things, people that wear a hijab, you know, peer support is important.
I have a question. So what goes through the mind of a bully?
Okay, great question. So
I know.
usually bullying is usually a result of somebody not feeling the best about themselves. Usually bullying is somebody thinks, oh, okay, I'm ugly, and then they don't like themselves and they just want to take it out on somebody else. It's usually projection of I don't feel good about myself, so I'm gonna make somebody else feel bad about themselves. Maybe somebody did it to them. Usually most bullies, when they ask them, usually they were bullied. That's the sad part. So they feel bad and they want to make somebody else feel bad. Usually is the main idea behind bullying. If you like yourself, if you love yourself, you don't have time to focus on somebody else, you know. But if you have your own problems and you're not feeling the best about yourself, what would you likely do? You'd likely want to make other people feel bad too. Have you ever heard the saying misery loves company?
No.
That's okay. Well, there's a saying that says misery loves company, and usually that's usually what a bully feels like. He doesn't like himself or herself, and they just want to take it out on somebody else to feel bad.
Yeah, and someone just typed in they have their own issues too, just like you said, Sister Aziza. Wow. Okay.
Great question.
Any other questions?
So, like, I actually have a comment.
Mhm.
I wanted to state that all bullies aren't children. Some bullies are in the classroom, some are the classroom teachers. I had a situation, and if you know your child and your student comes to you and they're saying, "Mom, this is happening, this is not right," take notice of that. We had a situation similar to that this semester with one of my children, and I had to go up against the teacher and the principal and the secretary, and I was about to add the CEO on the email as well. And then, alhamdulillah, they changed it and she's flourishing now. So sometimes, even with these teachers, instructors, professors, or what have you, I think they have a bias towards some of our students because they're Muslim, because their names are different. So just take heed to that and just know that bullies are in every form, fashion, and shape. And we have to be able to recognize it and speak up. Don't think that it'll go away.
Great
We have to advocate
point.
for our families.
Great point. Very, very important point. I agree completely.
Oh, thanks for
I was
that. Oh my, yes.
I think we just had a great example this past week of a bully. We were talking about adult bullies.
Yes.
So if the kids want to ask questions about bullying, I just think it's so ironic that one of the platform that his wife stood for was anti-bullying. And we have to experience the biggest bully of them all. I mean, I hate to bring politics into this, but this is kind of what it resorts to. So we could use that as an example so that there's some issues there.
That's a fact.
So the
And
irony.
he's not helping the Islamophobia and anything else that's a minority. He's not helping the minority groups. He's not helping Muslims. He's not helping anything. So definitely a great example.
Mm, yeah, that's wild. SubhanAllah. All right.
Different times.
Any more questions or comments? We're gonna go ahead and move this along. We do on our website have we put together, excuse me, something is in my way, a mental health resource on our webpage, on our website. So please go ahead and make use of that if you need it. We have some that are Muslim focused, some that are just in the DC area, some that are county based, also nationally based. So we have that information available for folks to tap into, please. Please check it out. All right. So from what we've been discussing, one advice I would like to give parents, and Sister Aziza mentioned this, is what I want to ask the question first. When your kid needs to talk to someone, do they have someone to talk to besides you? We can't continue to assume that our kids will always come to us. We're not always their first choice, unfortunately, especially when they're going through their teenage years. So ask yourself that question, and really make it a priority for you to help widen that circle for your kids. That circle could entail trusted aunties, uncles, mentors, or even some of their peers that, of course, you want to make sure that what their morals or their characters matches and is along the lines of what you believe in and you want instilled in your child, and help nurture such friendships. But it's important for us to stop thinking that the kids are just always going to confide in us, because that's not the case. I know my kids, and I really appreciate the fact that they have auntie and uncles that they can go to talk about. Of course, if it's something that has safety issues at the heart of it, they'll come back and tell me about it. But typically, it's something that stays between the two of them, and they help them work through their issues and their problems or their concerns or whatever it is that they're dealing with. So it's important to have that for them. Also, to echo some of the things that we have discussed today, I'd like to reiterate that the absence of mental illness alone does not imply well-being. So obviously, the girl in the hallway whose hijab is being pulled may not necessarily exhibit, those telltale mental health issues, but it doesn't mean that they're not going through something. So we don't always see mental illness. We don't always see mental things that should be concerning for us in terms of mental wellness. So we need to keep a close eye on that. In closing, I'd like to leave you all with this. Our faith and spiritualism as Muslims is not antagonistic to our mental health wellness. Please remember that. It's okay to seek help. Along with the Quran and the dua and everything else, it's okay to seek help. Both our faith and our mental wellness are important parts of a holistic wellness, a holistic well-being. So seeking mental health care is by no means antithetical to being a good Muslim. The Afia Project is here to support our community in continued engagements in these types of courageous conversations as so we can understand mental health in a more holistic manner. Inshallah, we'll continue this conversation next week, but please remember, next week it's only for the teens. So we're gonna have just the teens log on and have conversations with Sister Aziza. They're gonna, inshallah, we're hoping they'll feel free enough to share with her what their concerns are, and then we'll start helping them kind of navigate how to deal with mental health issues. And then after that, the next week after that, on the 24th, we'll bring the parents and teens back, and we'll discuss some of the things we learned, some of the ways we want to move forward, some of the things, kind of like an action plan, see what we can do as a community to help support our our teenagers. All right. And it's always going to be at 3 p.m. So I'd like to thank you all so much for attending. Special shout outs to Sister Aziza for your time, your dedication to this topic. Also to Brother Hamzat. I really appreciate what you've been doing with the Senior Stars. And you can always reach us via email or WhatsApp text messaging. Our websites is listed up there. Please follow us on our social media platforms. We're open to your suggestions. This event came about by someone suggesting that we need to continue to deal with mental health issues. So we're definitely open to it. So سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Jazakallah khair to everyone. We really appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Assalamu
Thank
alaikum.
you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.